So we're joined from the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, at the base of the United States Air Force by Senior Master Sergeant Debbie Cole. We thank you so much for joining us. We're in the Government Career Cluster, and we've got a room full here with us at Velma Jackson High School. We're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central, Rosa Scott, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much, sir, for the opportunity again.
That's awesome. Now, before we get into what all it is you do in the Air Force and some of the opportunities for military careers, just give us a little background because you're from Mississippi, from Jackson,
Mm.
from a military family. So just talk a little bit about how you got the idea to go into the military.
Yes, so to correct that, I'm from Clinton. I do tell people when I'm out of state that I'm from Jackson, just because no one knows the small city of Clinton. So go Arrows. So yeah, come from a family of eight, from Mississippi. I'm number six of eight with my siblings, and my grandfather, retired military, served during some of the wars. So it was pretty cool. I just, I went to Ole Miss first, for about a year before I actually joined the military. And to be honest, I just got bored. That is the honest truth. Like it was nothing special, just like something I've always wanted to do. I thought about Air Force when I was younger. It's unfortunate at the time when we were in high school in Clinton, we didn't bring much military in there. So I didn't have a lot of knowledge when it came to the
Yeah,
military. So I'm really great to see the opportunities and the education we're giving back to the state of Mississippi right now when it comes to just different opportunities, because the same route to success is not the same for everyone. So we grew up
absolutely.
thinking just college and that's it. So I can tell you, out of eight siblings, two of us are military. I have a younger brother that's in the Marines. He's actually stationed here as well, in DC. So it's pretty cool to be here with family. So yep, that's a little about me. So my husband is military as well. He's an air traffic controller. He's actually in Mississippi right now, down in Biloxi, doing some training down there with the air traffic controller. So, and I have two daughters, almost 16-year-old and 3-year-old. Don't ask me, what was I thinking? But yep, so that's a little about me.
That's awesome. And I'm glad you mentioned about the path to success because we're all about giving kids options. And I agree with you. We're close to the same age, and we were really not given, even though we had a great JROTC program at Madison Central, everybody wasn't able to do that. And when everybody wasn't made aware of all the paths, and we're all about
Hmm.
giving kids opportunities. And I think a few misnomers. First of all, people think Air Force and they think it's only airplanes, and that is just so far from the truth. It is such a
Hmm.
small part of what the Air Force does. The other thing is, a lot of kids think if I go to the military, I can't go to college, and that's not true either.
Mm-mm. Nope, that's not true at all. You're so right, Greg. So yes, less than 1% of the Air Force are pilots. I didn't meet the height requirements for that, so So yes, it's so many different career fields. Almost anything you can do in the civilian world, you can do in the Air Force, in any of the branches, to be honest. From working in the gyms to, flying planes and everything in between, maintenance, cooks, chefs, everything like that. So you're correct about that as far as, it's a just kind of like this mystery thing, which everybody asks you, hey, you fly planes? No, you don't. So I agree with that. You're right about that.
And then also Ole Miss and Jackson State, I know both have great Air Force ROTC programs on their campus. So you can
Yes,
go to college, go ahead and enlist, and then go through the ROTC program, become an officer after you go to college, or you can
yes.
go enlist first, then go to college for free. So it is, I think a lot of kids think if I'm going to the military, I won't be able to go to college. That is not true.
No, not at all. I actually finished up my degree since I've been in the military. And also another thing to that, you're right, ROTC route. Again, I didn't have much knowledge on that, coming in, just not having that many recruiters and just, coming into our high schools. So you can do it that route, or you can actually come in, get your degree, and still actually commission as an officer while you're in. So it's just so many different opportunities. I was talking to my sister this morning. She's in Jackson still, and I was just telling her about, speaking to you all today. And I was letting her know just how, I'm always excited to do these type of things. But more importantly, the excitement comes from just the education piece on so many different opportunities. Just people always have thought, this is the route, and just the education piece on just the
Yeah.
different routes you can go. And I love school, and I still decided, it just wasn't for me at the time, so it's one of those things that, you just kind of look at it, you say to yourself, like, okay, I didn't go this route and this path. At the same time, like this equaled my success going, different routes and paths.
Yeah, and another thing is, especially now with technological advances, I know the Air
Hmm.
Force and the Space Force, especially. I mean, and again, all the branches offer great opportunities, but
Hmm.
especially in the tech field, we have kids that want to get into IT. We have kids that want to get into cybersecurity. I know your husband's in air traffic control.
Hmm.
All these computer maintenance. The Air Force and especially is going to offer some of the most high tech equipment you could ever work with. So you could, I meet kids all the time that say, look, I want to get into the tech world, but I didn't want to pay to go to college. You can get into the Air Force, you get
Hmm.
4 or 5 years of experience in state of the art technology, get certifications for
Yes.
free that you're getting paid to get. When you get out, you're looking at pretty much a guarantee of a six-figure salary, and you didn't
Yes.
pay a dime for it. Because I think a problem is, and I hear this all the time, and I know you probably have too, is kids watch movies and they think all the military is let's kick down doors, blow stuff up, and throw grenades and bomb people. Now, if you
Yes.
want to do that, the Air Force and these other branches can find a place for you without a doubt. But that is
Hmm.
so far from the truth.
That's yep, correct, Greg. Great points. And you're actually spot on as far as thinking about the concept of people have a stigma when it comes to the military. I can tell you, my life has been nothing like that. I've deployed, twice, and it's still just like it. Even though it's a proud feeling to know you're serving your country and you're willing to, do a lot of things that people aren't doing. Less than 3% of the, population is military. However, I've had a pretty stable life when it comes to just a traditional 8 to 5. Now, there's times you're going to be asked, to do things, maybe on the weekends or when you're deployed, you're working certain shifts like that. But my job is typically a normal 8 to 5. And it's not the stigma of what you see the commercials sometimes, and just everybody's out there, got the paint on their face and everything like that. Again, like I was telling my sister this morning, the point you made as far as, getting those certifications and everything for free. I was telling her I wish more people actually joined the military, especially from my hometown. When I was stationed there in MEPS a few years ago, I was stationed at home for 3.5 years. And I would go to the high schools and do the ASVAB testing and things like that. And some of the students would talk to me. And I wasn't a recruiter. And they just wanted to know my experiences. And they would ask me, well, at the end, they'll say, well, I'm scared to, leave home. And my thing to them was, what are you leaving? Everybody's, scared. I mean, it's a fear whenever you start a new job or anything, even as a, adult, it's a fear to start something new, but it's so many great opportunities. Just from even if you did want to get in and just do your 4 year stint and decide to get out, you are so much more marketable for the civilian sector. When they see you, military, you go up because they see you have the experience, they know you have the discipline. So I really do wish more people understood, just the more of the education piece when it comes to all the opportunities in the military, from medical to health. And I've never been a recruiter, and I'm not a recruiter for the Air Force, but
Yeah.
it provided me a great life. And again, my siblings were against it when I first went. I remember like, oh no, Debbie, you go to college, you don't go to the military. And my older brother actually came back in about 2 years after and said, Debbie, you know what? Even though I was so against it, and he was the one that was actually mad at me because he got me in Ole Miss and he was kind of like bringing me in under him. He was like, you know what? I actually think this was really good for you. You're doing really well for yourself. So I felt like I was doing okay getting that from him.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned too about, even, people go to the Air Force to learn trades. People go
Hmm.
get, they have truck drivers and you mentioned medical. My uncle was a member of the Navy, went to medical school for free and became a doctor while he was in the Navy,
Hmm.
never paid a dime for medical school. So there really are so many different routes that I think people don't understand. And I'm glad you mentioned about being away from home. We have a couple of alums from Velma Jackson, that are members of the Air Force. We have one. Uh, he's just went to Anchorage, Alaska. He's
Nice.
little Camden, Mississippi, and he just finished tech school to be security forces to be in Anchorage, Alaska.
Nice.
We had another one that he said, I wanted to get out of Camden. There had to be more to see. And he's lived in Guam. He's lived in the Philippines. He's lived in Hawaii. He's lived in Japan. Now he's in Oklahoma. But he's already seen more places than I've ever seen. And he's just
Mhm.
24 years old.
Yep, good point, great point. And so again, it's so many opportunities like that as far as just seeing the world. Not to put my husband and family on blast or anything, but when we got married back in 2019, they're from California. And people always think this stigma is just with like the South as far as like, we don't get out enough, we're not cultured enough. And their first time actually leaving the state of California was when we got married in 2019. And they are grown and
Wow.
older. So it's so many people that, never see just how much more things are out there in the world and, just so culture. So we try to like get our daughters out and, get them, but definitely bring them back to Mississippi because we want them to understand, the foundation of, everything. And I love me some Mississippi. However, just to get them more culture, it's kind of pretty neat when you hear about the Eiffel Tower, but then at the age of, 10, 11, you're actually visiting the Eiffel Tower. So just different things like that where you can actually travel for free on the military's dime. And again, it's not made for everyone to do 20 years. I'm hitting going on 17 years, in November. My husband's going on 22 years. So it's not
Wow.
made for everyone to do 20 years. However, it is so many different opportunities. And I've seen people come in, do their 4 year stint, get out and be extremely successful. I had one guy working for me when I was in Florida, and he was just always a quiet worker. He didn't care to, exceed or anything like that. And that's fine because we need average people. So I didn't realize that he ended up telling me, at the last minute he's getting out. And okay, so what's your plan? I'm always asking him, like, what's your plan? Like, what are you gonna do? Because I want to make sure, we're setting him up prior to then. He said, "Oh, Sergeant Cole, I've been working on real estate for the past year. I make more money doing, real estate than I do in the military." And he just kept quiet about it. And he was saying how the military gave him that platform because when people understood that he was actually in the military and you're a real estate agent, it just brought him more customers in, so he used that as a stepping stool. And there's so many things now in the military, people are like, "Oh well, military plus you do this," and it actually you get to kind of like capitalize and leverage on that business just due to the fact of being military. So yes.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned about being marketable too, because a lot of these companies have preferred status to hire veterans. They get tax
Mm-hmm.
breaks on it, but they like giving veterans jobs. And I hear kids say all the time, "Well, I want the college experience." Well, something that I've learned recently is that the military, you're pretty much getting a college experience. When you're in tech school, you're
Mm-hmm.
living in the dorms, you're going to class, but you're getting a whole time you're banking money. You're not paying anything. And then I have other kids say, "Well, basic training will be scary. They'll be yelling at me, and they want me to quit." And I'm like, "It's tough, but they want you to complete it. The
Mm-hmm.
military wants people to complete basic
Yes.
training. They don't want people to wash out. They need people to get in."
Extremely right, Greg. It is not that hard. And we were joking on the phone this morning. My sister was like, "You think I can complete basic training?" She's prissy, and I was like, "Yes, you can do basic training. Like, it's not." Again, that's you see that thing and stigma, but you're absolutely right. Like, they want people actually to pass. They don't go in with the notion of, we're gonna wash out all these people. You won't be able to make it. So I agree. I hated running and all those things when I came into the military. In basic training, when I started, I'm like, "Oh boy, I haven't ran in about 2, 3 years, and I wasn't an athlete or anything like that. And I had no problems in basic training."
Yeah, and that's what I say. If people play sports in high school, I think that's a great transition to the military because it's still that team mindset, and you're already in somewhat of shape. It's a lot
Mm-hmm.
easier than you might realize. Now, talk a little bit about what you do there in the Pentagon, because first of all, it's really cool to work in the largest military office in the world, right there in our
Mm-hmm.
nation's capital. But like you said, you're not in a combat job; you're in an office,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a very important job. But you're not jumping out of airplanes, you're not bombing people, you're not, kicking down the doors and everything. But just talk a little bit about what you do, because I think that's a great example of how literally every field translates into military work.
Oh, definitely, yes. So I was actually very fortunate when I first came here to the Pentagon to have a job where I was a superintendent of a executive support staff. And what that basically is we support like all the top level Air Force agencies and Air Force senior leaders, and also the three-letter agencies like your DIA, your FBI, just different entities that have military personnel in them, to include the White House. And we support them from an admin standpoint. So again, it's a traditional 8 to 5. I come in, I had a team, very elite team that was all selected by the Air Force, and that was our job, really just support those personnel. And it was pretty cool because we get our customers, work at the White House and work at all these places, so we get the tours, the behind the scene tours, basically, so the elite ones. So it was a pretty good job. I recently just transferred over to a new division where I'm in A1, and we deal with like the policy in the Air Force and everything like that. Again, HR, admin type of job, 8 to 5. A lot of remote working right now. So that's pretty neat too. That it's again just like the civilian sector. Actually, in my department right now, we only have 3 military people. So I work with
Wow.
all civilians right now, except for those 3 personnel, to include me in the 3 personnel. So I'm still here at the Pentagon right now. So if my husband get promoted soon, we could possibly be leaving. He's actually thinking about Biloxi, Keesler. I was stationed there before as well too. So yep, pretty neat. It's definitely not, at any given time when you're in the military, you can be asked to deploy, and do the tough things. And we know that we sign up for that. We raise our right hands and we give our life for this country. However, it's not that typical in certain career fields to go as much. Again, I've been in going on 17 years, only been twice. My husband, 22 years, and he's been quite more than I have. So it's just different with his career field being more operational and my career field being more support administrative. So that's the difference.
But also when you deploy, you are getting paid more. I think that gets overlooked as well. And the cool thing, and we talked about when you're in tech school, you're just banking money because you're not paying for anywhere to live. You're
Nope.
not paying for any meals. You're basically maybe paying for a cell phone bill, and everything else is just going into your bank account. And it literally is money that you really don't even have to touch.
And it's interesting you say that because I always tell people and they laugh about this. I'm like, you know why I like the military so much? And they say, why? I say, it's easy. And I'm a little lazy. The military is really easy. And the thing about it, my boss is civilian. He was saying the other day, like the difference between military and civilian is military, we give you so many chances. The concept of it is such a team dynamics in the military where people, want you to get it right, where they care about like your finances, they care about your personal life. So it's not just your typical, I just go to work and go home. And a lot of people, even though they're ready to retire and they've been doing it for so long, when they get out, it's a concept that they actually missed it. They talk about, I've heard more of them talk about now, like, I miss that camaraderie. I miss that team atmosphere. And I was actually at one of our first Friday events. We hang out a lot and do like Friday after and hang out after work and stuff like that. And I was telling my husband, this is why I like the military so much because it's camaraderie. It's not just the concept of I go to work and I'm home. People actually genuinely care. Not saying all leaders are going to be the same, but I've been very fortunate in my career to have this is my eighth assignment, 8 different bases that I've been to include my 2 deployments, it'll be 10. And very fortunate to have people kind of take me under their wings, to have like a family almost everywhere that I PCS. So I've never felt that sense of like loneliness or being away from home or anything like that. So it's just different. And I didn't realize until one of our friends posted about it recently, like no one warned me for this feeling. And she was basically saying, and I'm so glad she opened up about it. She said, no one warned me that we don't have this in the civilian world. We don't have this team dynamics, this team atmosphere. She said, it's really she struggled with her transition because she was expecting that in her civilian job. So a lot of things I tell the airmen and people that work for me sometimes, don't take for granted what we have. And I just see how fortunate we are and how blessed we are more than anything to get opportunities and chances and people wanting you to succeed in different things like that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that too, because another friend of this class is Jennifer Riley Collins, who was in the Army for 22 years, got up to colonel, and she tells me all the time, I miss my military life. And it's not that
Yeah.
she's not happy with what she's doing, but like she said, she misses the camaraderie, she misses the discipline, and she misses the
Mm-hmm.
bonds that she made with so many great men and women of the military. And you're right, it is amazing how many people actually say that.
Mm-hmm. That is so true. Yep, and I always joke with my siblings again. It's 8 of us, and 2 of us are military, and 6 of them aren't doing very, very well, very successful what they're doing. However, whenever we're doing vacations and planning things, we're all pretty close. They're always wondering about like, oh, can I take off? Do I got leave? I can't take off these days. And I always tell them, why does my life seem a little easier when it comes to like taking vacations and coming back home to you all's life? And people say, oh, I want the military to control me. Guess what? McDonald's control you because they're going to tell you to wear that hat. They're going to tell you how to flip the fries. So I always tell people, you're going to be controlled no matter what you do. You could be an entrepreneur and you're going to be controlled by your customers in that sense. So again, it's not this place where you go somewhere and they're disapproving your leave and you can't get back or no, I've never had leave disapproved in 17 years. I'm always traveling, taking vacations. I'll be in Mississippi this weekend seeing my family. So it's not the stigma that you think is out there. And again, everything's not going to be the same, and every branch won't be the same. But just this is my experiences. And I have a brother-in-law in the Navy. A good friend of my daughter's in the Army, and then my little brother's in the Marine. So I know almost every branch and just the dynamics of it. So always team
Yeah.
Air Force, but respect for all the branches.
Oh, big time. And like we said, they really do. They all offer great things,
Oh
depending on
yes.
what somebody wants to do. And then you're going to be home this weekend, but you're actually going to be on campus here Tuesday.
Hmm.
So we have some that are actually going to be that are with me now. They're going to be here, and they already have some questions now, but they'll be able to ask you more then. And this first one is Naomi Smith. She's in ninth grade. She will be with us Tuesday. She's a member of our JROTC, member of our basketball team, member of the band. She does a lot. But she
Nice.
asked, what made you choose this job as opposed to a combat job?
Again, I didn't have thanks so much, Naomi, and congrats all the things you're doing in high school. That's really phenomenal. And it's gonna really, help you out, going forward with your life and just whatever you decide to do when you graduate. This job, again, I had no desire to go into anything in particular. And when you come into the Air Force, you go into a delayed entry program where if they say you can leave up to like a year after you kind of say you want to join, you enlist, and you're good to go from MEPS. And my recruiter called me and was like, "Hey, Debbie, we got this admin job." How he sold it to me was 8 to 5. You're normally off on weekends, and you leave in 2, 3 weeks. I'm like, "Oh, sounds perfect." So that was the reason. So I've been stationed with people that's in combat jobs. I've been stationed at Army installations with units that they fly the planes and they have a cool mission. And the longer I've been in, I've actually kind of like wish I would have been more operational in combat, but that was more so of it. It seemed like it fit my lifestyle. And again, I'm like 8 to 5. That sounds perfect. No weekends. Okay, you got me.
Yeah. I like this one. This is Chloe Luckett. She's in ninth grade, one of our cheerleaders here. And she asked, did you think your family was going to be so resistant to you joining the military?
I knew I didn't think my brother would be as resistant as he was. I knew he'll be upset because he actually helped me get into Ole Miss at the last minute. So it was more one of those like he kind of like vouched for his sister and made some things happen within like days of school starting. So I knew my brother would be upset, but I didn't expect him to like be as upset as he was for a few years. So I didn't. I think they'll be shocked. I was always the kid that kind of like went against the grain a little bit, so I expected them to be shocked. So I don't think one of my sisters who I was talking to this morning, I don't think she expected it. I think she started crying when she came up there, like, "You really are leaving." So I didn't think they would. I don't think they would be as resistant as they were. But again, a lot of times, you have to just make sure you're making decisions. You think about everything for yourself. We often sometimes rely too much on other people when it comes to like decisions and when it comes to what we want to do with our own lives. But after you thought it out, done your research, just saw the limb facts for you, you gotta just make sure you stay true to that because you don't want many regrets on something other people told you or didn't want you to do.
Yeah. Oh, I like this one. This is Rakia Jackson. She's in 10th grade, one of our cheerleaders. Her sister is actually up in Virginia as well as a logistics officer in the U.S. Army,
Nice.
active duty. We're really proud of her and all she's doing for our country as well. But she asked, did you always want to join the military or and what made you, or I'm trying to read this right. Did you always want to join the military? And when you found out about all the benefits of the military, was that a motivation to join?
Me and my sister actually had talked about the Air Force when we were younger. We always said we'll join, and we always joked about it. So when I went, she was like, "You're supposed to wait on me." So it was one of those things that we joked about, but I never saw myself really in the military, never ever. But 100% the benefits. Again, go back to the concept. I'm kind of lazy. So when I saw that I can come in and do this job and like, you know what? You get this and you get that and you get to go travel for free. Why not? So that was a huge part when you saw the benefits. And I can tell you right now, just hearing my siblings talk about like medical and what they pay a month, and I'm just like, what? I mean, like I don't, we take for granted so many things we have in the military. And when you've been doing it so long, and a lot of people who've worked for me who've gotten out now, they're like, man, I didn't even realize, out here how hard it was, and just different, because the military, in a sense, it make you a little, unappreciative if you came in right at 18 because there's so many great benefits. Even just the therapy and just mental health aspects of the military focus on a lot, and I'm starting to see a lot of civilian jobs are getting going down that route as well, which I'm happy about. So that's another big thing too. Like they care about you as a person.
This is Cameron Sutton. He's in 10th grade. He asked, when you first enlisted, were you scared to be away from home?
Extremely scared, Cameron. Yes. My siblings were very close. We're all like 1 year apart, excluding the oldest and youngest. And so I'm used to like always having my siblings there, my mom. So I was extremely scared. And not only that, when I first got to my first base, I found out I was pregnant. So I was actually away from home, 19-year-old with a brand new baby. So my family came down to visit and everything in the beginning, but I remember my mom left. I looked in the back seat and saw this baby, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Like, I'm 8, 9 hours from home. But I can tell you that looking back on it is actually laughable because I'm just like, boy, to see everything you kind of overcame, you thought was a real challenge. You just like, oh, that was easy. I'll easily do that again. So yes, people in the South, we love being home. We love our family. However, I can tell you, I come home a lot. I get stationed back at home. I was stationed at Jackson Meps actually for 3.5 years. I was stationed at Keesler. I was stationed at Fort Herbert Field, which is 3.5, 4 hours from home. I've had a lot of assignments really close to home. So there's so many bases in the Air Force. That's another thing with my job too. The reason I chose to go back to that other question, I like to have a job that can go to a lot of different installations. So sometimes you'll get certain jobs that they're too technical or too specialized, then you only get like a few bases, which it makes sense, because that mission is only at that base. But when it comes to admin, HR, you can go almost anywhere. So that's why I was able to be stationed at
Awesome.
Fort Hood and different things like that.
That's awesome. Well, I have time for two more. This is Rayshawn Williamson. He's in ninth grade, one of our football players here. And he asked, did you see yourself looking at any other branches besides the Air Force?
I just kind of like looked at, what was important to me, and it was kind of shallow. I was like, oh, I can't do the Army. Seems like, it's different. Navy, didn't like water at the time, No, I didn't see it. I think now, even looking back on, if I could say where would I go now, it would probably be the Marines. Space Force, definitely Marines. I could possibly do the Navy, but wouldn't be my preference, but Air Force just seemed right up my alley. And again, I'm not a recruiter, but I like, you know, a certain type of living, and the Air Force focus a lot on like, quality of lifestyle and different things like that. So, and one thing I love about the Air Force is the fact that the rank structure, people treat you more like people versus your rank. And I can't say that for all the services. So they want you to think, they want you to be innovative. So that's a great thing about the Air Force, that they put so much into you to a whole person concept. So it's not just only be good at your job. So it forces us to be, just kind of think outside the box. And if we're not afraid, like I don't see a colonel or somebody coming in and I just get kind of scared or anything like that. Like it create more of
Yeah.
just a good working relationship versus you're not this rank, so you shouldn't talk to me.
Awesome. Well, I got one more, and I love this question. This is Renaya Matthews. She's in ninth grade, and she asked, "Do you ever walk up and see the Pentagon and wonder how you made it there?"
Oh, I just got chills. Yes, I do. My last job that I had before I transitioned over about 8, 9 months ago, I came into the Pentagon every single day. I drove into the Pentagon, and I can tell you by far out of 8 assignments, this is my favorite assignment. It is. People think bureaucracy and all those things, which bureaucracy is a negative. But it's nothing like people ever think. I never had a desire to come here, like, oh, I want to go work at the Pentagon. My husband got the opportunity for the job he has. So we came here, leaving Florida. And I do. Sometimes I just stop and I look at the building as I'm walking in. It's like, I cannot believe I work at the Pentagon. And then
That's
just
awesome.
on top of that, to the people you encounter and the job that you do is it. Yeah, that was a good question. So yes, I do think to myself like, wow, I'm working here.
That's awesome. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you
Mhm.
so much for joining us again. But just a couple things before we go. First of all, you're from right down the road. You grew up in the same area, but yet you have traveled the world and had an amazing career, and you're there at the largest military base in the world. So you have made yourself into a great career. So why should these kids really consider going a similar route in our armed forces to be able to be just as successful?
Great, great, great way to end, Greg. Again, started off, I'm not a recruiter, not at all. However, it's just so many opportunities that I would never have been afforded, or people that I've met. I've met so many dynamic people. I think about my resume sometimes. Like if I was just say, you know what, I want to get out, and my resume would just be like, oh wow, she done this, 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 and this. And it's just I always tell people, kind of I'm squirreling a little bit. I feel every American citizen should do at least 2 to 3 years in the military. That's how much I just kind of have bought in it. And I've always, I'm really close to my family, but everywhere that I've went, I've got that family dynamic. And the one thing I would love to tell people from cities in Mississippi, places in Mississippi, it's okay to leave home. Like it is okay. Like you look back on it, and some of the best leaders we've had, they're from these little small towns, and they just always say to themselves, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I left. I just had a friend retire last month, and he actually, the day that the retirement was effective, he was at home on his porch, with his family in South Carolina. He said, Debbie, I had a moment. He said, I remember leaving for basic 23 years ago. And I remember looking back at this door to sit here, it's just crazy that I even left and went. So that's the reason I would say so many opportunities. the college isn't the route for everybody going straight off. But again, it's, if you even if you did want, like my little nephew, just actually he's there in, what school is he in? Maybe Madison Central. Don't make me lie. But he just actually left for basic training for the Army. Or he actually
Cool.
graduated. He still has a whole year left of school, so he's actually considered guard right now in the Army.
Oh, wow. That's
And he's
awesome.
finishing up school right now, and he's gonna do guard, and he's gonna go to college and do all those things and commission after he's done with college. That's a totally different route that I went. That's an exceptional, great route. So it's just so many different opportunities, so many great things. Thank you so much, Greg. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on Tuesday.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having you. I know you got to get back to work, but thank you so much for joining us. Senior Master Sergeant Debbie Cole, all the way at the United States Air Force Office in the Pentagon. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right. Thank you all so much.
All right, see you soon, buddy.
All right.